Welcome back, denizens of the Omniverse. So I got to watch all 10 episodes of Stranger Things Tales from 85 to prep a review for you guys here upon release. As far as edited reactions to this, because I did record my reactions, you can check out my full links already for the entire season over on Patreon as we speak. As far as the edited stuff, with Level Up right around the corner this weekend, I'm not sure when I'll be able to get around to that or what the demand will even be for it. So just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of my thoughts on the season, we're going to be talking about that here. I'm going to try to keep things as spoiler-free as possible. So with that all said, I will say, like, overall, it was a pretty mixed bag for me. I liked Season 5. I've covered my entire Stranger Things journey here on the channel, and I like Stranger Things Season 5. The way it wrapped up everything, I was not soured by it whatsoever. Did I think it was perfect? No, but I thought it was one of the better final seasons we've had in a minute. And the problems that I had weren't enough to really hamper my enjoyment. So I'm not like Stranger Things out like I know some people are for sure. But going into this, it was most definitely, it was already starting off on a weird foot because of where it is. We're going back in time between seasons 2 and 3 and telling a story that we've heard nothing about. Nobody talks about it. So like it just already, you're setting yourself up to have to be like self-contained in a way that it can't impact the story. It really can't. So this really is just a side adventure to come into and just spend time with the gang in a fun, inconsequential kind of way. At times, so much so that it feels like we're in a completely different version of this timeline. Almost as if this is part of an adaptation of Stranger Things rather than what is meant to be a something that goes alongside what we have been watching up until this point. I think an accurate comparison, this is something I was thinking about after the fact, it reminds me of like when you get a popular IP and then they make like a young kid's version book of it, or like a children's book out of it. There's typically a new character, like a self-insert of sorts for the audience to kind of go play with and use as their vehicle in to hang out with the cast and crew that they know and love and have a little kind of goosebumpsy kind of Scooby-Doo-esque adventure with them, because it is definitely lighter. You know, it is taking that Western approach and using animation to pretty much gear this towards a younger audience, which I guess strategically makes sense with the flagship coming to an end with season 5. People had grown up with it and some people are growing out of it. So what do you need? Like when you're something like Netflix, you got to get more people in and feed that beast. So I think the neon lights, the bright colors, the animation are here to lure in a younger audience and introduce them to Stranger Things. And choosing to do that between seasons 2 and 3, I think is a pretty smart move because it kind of gives you a small period to play with where all the principal cast are all kind of together and for the most part, all right, not completely stressed the hell out with all the other things going on in the world. But you've got pretty much everybody from 11 to Max and a new kid. You got your self-insert. However, unlike your typical blank slate self-insert, this character, Nikki, moves into Hawkins and immediately get swept up into the story. They have their own past personality. They are the complete opposite of a blank slate, but they do wildly kind of just slip right into the group in a really kind of fun way. Like they're not too egregiously out of place when you consider like stuff like episode 8, or what, that was the episode number, was it? The one where 8 is introduced that everybody loathes. You know, she feels like she would fit in right in with that crew. But all that aside, she fits in quite nicely with everything, and the way that she starts to gel with the crew, it's a lot of fun to watch. You do have to kind of turn your brain off though, because the way that she gets involved in certain things and the way this series is writing itself, there are some foundational elements as far as the character arcs that are kind of like laying the groundwork for kind of like some of that internal struggle that we saw, or drama that we saw kind of bubbling up right at the start of season 3. So you're dealing with a lot of these things that are, in the grand terms of the series overall, kind of a long multi-season kind of arc where you're kind of having this character come in and it ends up warping those arcs into a conclusion in this. So if you were to watch this like it's being sold as and billed as, if you were like watch it seasons 1, 2, Tales 3, you're going to find yourself bumping into some redundancy because they are just going to forget a lot of the things we just trudge through and then go through it all again, just as they will completely forget that this character even existed. Like I said, this feels like maybe even its own continuity. Who knows? Like 1 and 2, maybe canon, maybe 3 onward. Maybe we cracked open into the multiverse. I really don't know. I will also say the season does not end in a nice and neat way to transition into season 3. So a lot of those things are still up in the air, and a lot of those concerns still exist by the end of the season. And we started off, the series takes place in January, so we have some runway to kind of deal with these events. It doesn't take place over a long swath of time, so it does leave the runway open if they want to do another season of this, 2 or 3, however many, whatever. They could definitely maybe tie that off later. Still begs the question, though, why did none of this ever come up? We don't learn anything new. We don't unpack anything new as far as like the Upside Down, these creatures, this world. I know some people, like myself included, was like, oh, maybe they can use this to kind of fill in some of the gaps, some of the holes that were left open by the end of the series. And that's a big old nope. It really is just the definition of a side adventure, and it's fun. But because it's gearing things towards a younger audience, a lot of things are going to feel different. Not only just because of the change up of medium, but the tone. It is definitely lighter, it is brighter, it is goofier. A lot of the characters are exaggerated versions of themselves, which sometimes lead them going down these roads where they are borderline out of character sometimes. And there's an entire plot point in this that is gung-ho spearheaded by somebody I would imagine would not have done this given the seriousness of everything we've been through up until this point. And there's a lot of things that just feel like this is definitely here to like rope in a younger mind, or what they think will rope in a younger mind. There's a lot of tropes that they lean into. There's definitely some sequences that go straight up Hanna-Barbera, Scooby-Doo territory, where it's just borderline ridiculous. The kids, they don't swear. The violence is definitely toned down. But it still has a lot of that mystery. It has a lot of that air. The creatures are cool. The designs are cool. Because it's animation, you don't have to worry about budgetary constraints or the limitations of the physical space we exist in. And because of that too, we get to see Eleven do some crazy shit. Like, not gonna lie, she's more powerful here than she has ever been at any point in the main show. It's just one of those things too. The animation, though, like where I'm mixed on like literally the story, the importance, the relevance, a lot of these things, the character decisions, I am the definition of mixed on all of that. The one thing I am not mixed at all on is the animation and the art direction, the look of this show. It is beautiful. It is breathtaking. I love the color palette that they've gone with. I love the animation style, the stylization for the characters. I just like the way everything in this pops. It looks, it oozes style, and it allows them to do some really cool stuff. It's very artistic stuff throughout. The sound design in typical Stranger Things fashion is putting in overtime. It's great. We got, as expected, plenty of needle drops all throughout this, and they're all pretty much bangers. I think everything about that, like what brings this thing to life and makes it move and makes it breathe and makes it sound the way it sounds, all of those things on the technical side of it, I think, are all the bright spots of this. It is very much so, for me personally, quite the crutch, because I do feel like it is holding up everything else. And I do, hey, not to sound like I'm old cranky old man over here or anything like that, because there are some times genuinely where when you take it for what it is, I found myself chuckling, I found myself smiling, getting swept up in the adventure when I just let it take me. Sometimes that is hard for somebody who's seen Stranger Things before, because you'll get bumped out of those little moments when you hit a little roadblock that is like, well, this person wouldn't have done that. Or why is this here? Oh God, that's going to cause problems down the line. What the hell is that? There's a complete whole thing introduced, I think, like in the back, it was in the back half and a major part of the finale, there are some things introduced that completely, if they were in the main show, would have broken everything. So there's a lot of questionable things about this. Like it feels like, I was like, as much as I equated it to like a children's adaptation kind of thing, it very much so is it's like a puzzle. It's like a piece of a puzzle from a different puzzle you're trying to cram into the one that you've been working on. Like you accidentally reached into the wrong box, took out a puzzle piece, and tried to fit it in with this one you've been working on. Box A, box B, puzzle A. And you're like, bam. And you're like, why isn't this working? You know, it's just like, that's kind of how I felt throughout a lot of it. I did find myself getting endeared to the storyline. I did like this new character. I did like what they were going through. I connected with it, related with a lot of it. There's a lot of really great tender moments in it, but you're just at every turn, every sincere moment you give yourself into, I feel like you just kind of bump into something that checks you out of it. I feel like you'd probably like this a lot better. And again, this is kind of the tact and the idea, I think, for the existence of this show is to get people in who have not seen Stranger Things, but maybe are familiar with it just by cultural osmosis. You know, the characters are recognizable, the brand is recognizable, but maybe this is like, okay, I'm going to introduce it to my kid or whatever. I don't know what that was. I don't know though if that's going to sell them for the rest of the show. Because I don't know that they're obviously the characters, the world, those things are similar, but like the story and the tone and everything else is very disconnected. So I'm not exactly sure how good of a lure this is if the goal is to get them to watch the rest of it. It may simply be, we're going to continue this on Tales season 2, 3, 4, 5, create a completely different path for kids to watch. You'll inevitably run out of runway, or maybe they'll do something different. Maybe they'll go their own way. I'm not sure, but that path doesn't feel like, to me, it leads to the show that we know. And I don't know how other people who grew up with the show or watched the show or are fans of the OG show, I don't know how they're going to gravitate towards this. I mean, most of them likely are my age, maybe give or take, a decade in either direction, and you know, who grew up with it or came into it maybe even late like I did. I really don't know if this is going to be for you or not. Like I said, I like cartoons. I like animated stuff, whether it be adult animation or kids stuff, you know, like Avatar. It can be childlike without being like treating the audience like the kids are too dumb to understand what's going on. This kind of borderline, it skirts that line between do we trust the audience or do we not sometimes? So like it is, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too cynical right now about everything, but I do feel like, for me personally, this is a beautiful, beautiful, well-made mixed bag. As far as like this being like an integral must-watch piece of Stranger Things media, it is not to me. As far as, like I said, somebody coming in for the first time and this is the first thing they watch of this franchise at all, will probably enjoy it just fine. And again, I think that's kind of the point. So in that way, maybe it succeeds, but I guess only time will really tell until we see how it does, how people gravitate towards it. And maybe I'm alone. Maybe other people who are huge fans of the franchise and be like, oh yes, and just eat it all up. Just more Stranger Things. What are you doing? You're tearing up my chair. Now you want out. That's what you want, huh? All right. Let's wrap this up. That's basically my thoughts. For me, like, I'd probably give this like a solid 5 out of 5 for me. Like, literal middle of the road, because as much as like all the technical elements are firing on all cylinders for me, I just think everything else is just kind of wailing it out and it just kind of ends up balancing out in the middle for me. But if you've watched it all already, I would love to know what you guys thought. How did you feel about it? Is this your first time watching anything Stranger Things related? If so, how did you feel about it? If you are also a veteran Stranger Things fan, how did you feel about it? Hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already, because maybe I'll get around to posting my edited reaction to this. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to play this one by ear. But again, like I said, if you want to see my full links, they're all on Patreon, so go check those out. And speaking of, I want to shout out Lily Chan Son, Kiana Chanel, McGreg, Angela Burr, Calvin Brindley, CP Bastard, Theodore Wolf, Ariel Coyote, Ty London, Denise Mauricio. Thank you guys so much for becoming saviors on the channel, helping sponsor and support the rescues and take care of here at the office. You guys have been a tremendous help with all of that. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I'm giving you a special thank you to all of our channel legends. Without you guys, we would not be able to do what we do here. You and the patrons allow us to really just kind of keep up with all this content, get help with the editing, fight back against the copyright claims, and just keep on trudging on, man. So we can bring as much of this to you guys here on YouTube as we can, because without you guys, we wouldn't even be here. But that's just video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.